Hello, interwebs. Today I'm going to explain a little bit about me, my life, that sort of shit. Also, if you are new here, please don't worry about subscribing. I don't really upload that much. But when I do, consider it a treat. Okay? Okay. Alright. First off, I was born in a closet. Literally and figuratively. Why? Maternity ward was full. You were born at Vista Hospital on November 17th, 1995, and you were able to be in the maternity ward. You were a lucky son of a bitch. Or woman of a bitch, or whatever you want to call yourself. I was born in a closet because that day, that place was full. That's where my mom had me. And 2, she had to drive herself to the hospital because my dad's an asshole. Yeah. But we'll get back to that later. Anyway, the reason I say figuratively is until my mom died, because she didn't believe in bi/pan people, I had to keep myself in the closet from her. Behind that, she thought if you were bi or pan, you were either gay or straight and fooling yourself and were greedy and needed to pick a side. That ain't how it works, bro. Or sis, or sibling. That ain't how it works. And if you believe that's how it works, please kindly GTFO. Okay. I was baptized at 5 years old into the Catholic Church. Have I been stricken from the record? No. Main reason being, I don't even know if where my baptism certificate is, for one. And for 2, I think I only have a copy of it in this house, and my dad actually has it. So because of that, until he dies and I'm able to access such things, yeah, I don't think it's possible. So technically, if you're wondering about my religion, I am an eclectic witch. I do not subscribe to any of the fundy ideals that I was technically indoctrinated into at a Catholic school, as well as by my monster-in-law, who I'm glad is out of my life. So, Bonnie Wood, if you are watching this, hi, I hope the jar's working. Yeah, for those of you wondering who that is my monster-in-law. She is out of our lives, thank God, because she abused her son, she abused her husband, and I pray to whatever deity he is out there that will give her some karma wake-up call that she was an asshole and kill her ass, will do so. Anyway. Back to me. My mom and dad had me technically without ever getting married, which in the eyes of the Catholic Church, I was called a sin baby, according to what I was taught at the lovely local Catholic school in 7th grade. Yeah, religious trauma really coming in hot here. Sorry, guys. Let's see. I also was traumatized by a lot of people for stupid shit around my mother. Why? She had me at 40. I'm 27. You can imagine how many people would get mad at me saying, your mom is old enough to be your grandma. And I'm like, well, when did she have you? And these people are like my age. Like, let's say I'm 13, 14. And their moms are like 21. Maybe younger maybe a little older than that, but they look like they're 21. They look like they baby. So, that always didn't rub me the right way, because I was like, bruh. But now I understand why. According to those people, our only job as women or AFAB people is to have as many babies as possible, sit down, shut up, and do whatever the fuck we're told. Nah, fuck that. Unless it's to help anyone else with it, I'll do it. But if it's something that's like, the man is the head of the household, everything he says is as good as God's. No. And you must listen to your father on everything. Ha 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 ha. My dad's an asshole. Those of you who know him know that for a fact. But I'll elaborate a little bit further. Cheats on his pregnant girlfriend, aka my mother. Says she's cheating, tries to get her to get a DNA test as soon as the baby's born, tries to baptize the baby for her sake, tries to force her to marry him for the baby's sake, tries to do so much stupid shit. And that's not even the tip of the iceberg. That's all shit he did to my mother. But me being his flesh and blood, he wasn't as bad to you, right? Wrong! He thought I could fulfill his dream of being an engineer and being a part of the old money crowd of being with rich people. Because he grew up poor. When I told him I didn't want to be an engineer, and if I did, I'd want to be an Imagineer, he snuffed that down really quickly. Like, incredibly quickly. To the point where he said, "That's not real engineering, dear." Yeah, I couldn't be an engineer to save my life. I did marry one who's technically uncertified. But, here's the thing. There's a reason I know I could never be an engineer. Math and drawing. What do those two fuckers do all day? Math and drawing. At least with Imagineers, they're a little bit more understanding because Tony Baxter's in charge, I think, still. I don't know, but at the time when I was in high school, and I told my dad that to try and get him off my back. He was, and he's math dyslexic. So for those of you who don't know, yeah, now you know. And I also, as part of my thing, was like, if they hired somebody like Joe Rohde in there, I'd obviously fit right in. For those of you who don't know that name either, he's the guy who helped bring us Avatar Land as well as Animal Kingdom as a whole. How did he do that? Good question. He brought in a tiger into a business meeting. A live, actual tiger. I don't know if that's true or not, but I could still see that guy, with how crazy as he is, from what I've heard over the years, doing that. Anyway. Do I still want to be an Imagineer someday? Hell no. Why? I'm not like some people where they're with the gays! That's not why I don't like Disney. The reason I don't like Disney is because, for a whole different reason. Unlike the people with, they're with the gays, they're putting their agenda! Ah! Bitch, they've been doing that since the 90s. You remember Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin? They had a gay man with AIDS write those songs. Yet nobody bats an eye. Okay. Reason I'm not happy with them is basically them erasing some of their older IPs due to PC stuff that I'm like, dude, not everything has to be politically correct and sanitized for a kid to have to watch it. Everybody should learn that the world's fucked up. It doesn't matter. The end. I mean, that plus Hocus Pocus 2 looks like a woke mess to me. I've never seen it. Granted. But between that, when Angela Lansbury was still alive and they were working on the Beauty and the Beast live action, they didn't even come to her to get to when she was waiting for them to call back. at least from what I remember from this one interview, I might be misremembering. She said, I was waiting for them to call back so I could play Mrs. Potts again, but I never got their call. And then I found out that this other woman got the part, and I was like, oh. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of big crapola behind this. But the main reason is all these live action remakes that don't need to happen. The merch being subpar anymore. It's hard to explain. But to best sum up, as Sebastian said, the human world is a mess. And he's pretty much damn right about that. He's damn right about that. But anyway, besides also trying to get me to be that, he also wanted me to go into the regular gender roles of if I did, or once I did get married, I'd be the sweet little housewife who just gives so many Catholic babies to the world. And ugh, it makes me barf. I know I want kids someday, but that... I was 14 when he started to give me baby names. And were any of them nice? Let me give you a clue. One was Ethel. Another was Elmer. Do you need me to keep going? Oh, and he never legally used my actual last name. He'd always misname me as Hannah Rose Bird instead of my actual maiden name. I'm not going to dox myself because there's probably documents out there, but he also said he has a college account for me that I think he did put in the wrong name because he keeps asking for my SS number to try and fix it so I can get my money. Yeah, I think he lied about that, and it's under Hannah Rose Bird, which isn't a person I believe exists within Maryland. If they do, they technically have a college account that was meant for me. If you are said person, please give me the money. If there is any. If not, enjoy it. Enjoy the fact that you're technically me, but not. Yeah. He also was very mentally abusive, to the point where if I tried to deviate from anything that wasn't his way, yeah. From an early age, I think 5, I had to scary clean his house. That's why my house is a mess most of the time, but what I mean by scary clean is you're scared to touch a couch. You're scared to eat. You're scared to do shit because you're gonna get dirty. Bruh. No. Well, at the same time, I'd also have to clean his wood stove. Haul firewood. Clean the gutters. Get in his attic. And I think once he also had me try to whack a bee's nest off of something while he watched on the phone with a can of wasp spray, which, yeah, that's nice. Good thing I'm not allergic to bees. Insert clip of Nick Cage going, oh, not the bees here. But yeah. He also, when I was, at the time, just dating my husband, I heard him, I had to learn what he actually thought of people, and what he actually, his actual self and plans, through being a bit of a sneak. Well, he did the same thing to me. I mean, he read most of my diaries. He, would try to listen in the confessional with the priest by having his ear up against the door and then pretend like he wasn't there. Yeah. That doesn't help any much. But I remember one time him talking to his friend George, who was rich, and I think I was 6. Yeah, this was right after my Aunt Marcia died. Those two acted like asses at her funeral. Another reason I didn't have him or any of his cronies at my own wedding, because with how disrespectfully he treated his own sister, who just died, just because it was close to his birthday doesn't make it excusable, was another reason. But he said, I know Hannah's getting to the age of consent and shit, so she'll probably have to get married soon. But I will not let that patty bastard marry my daughter unless he shows that he is making over $50,000 in money and converts to Catholicism. Yeah, he was Fundy homeschooled. Like Abeka books, which if you've ever seen Ex-Fundy Diaries, you will know those are toxic bullshit. But yeah, back to this. He also, when I turned 18, and I had stopped within a year I basically stopped visitation, because he was just making me so angry and upset, and frankly sick to my stomach. I couldn't eat anything if I was over there barely, if I was on my period or not, due to anxiety that he would try to kill me if I walked out of turn. Because one time he did threaten my life while I was doing homework at 14. I never told this to the court, but you all are going to be the first inside scoop to this bullshit. I was doing homework, and I had to interview my dad. This was for religion class, on what he'd want me to, on the man he'd want me to marry. Listen to what I wrote. So, I literally told him, Dad, I have to do this thing for school. Will you help me? Yeah, of course. I legit told him, I wrote down my stuff. He read my stuff, and then he said, not in your fucking life will you marry a man who you just love and doesn't respect me. And I'm like, I was 14. I hadn't met Mikey yet, my husband now. And, well, I technically had, but we weren't dating yet. I had only met him once at a church dinner with my friend Meredith. Hi! Anyway, she, at the time, they were just sort of a thing, sort of not a thing. It was this weird limbo back and forth hacky sack shit. But when I asked him why, he said, because I'm your father, and I am as close to God as he should be. And I'm like, what? Then I did it again. This time it wasn't for school. I just did it for fun at 16. Because before my Aunt Marcia died, I told her about Mikey. I told her everything that was going on. And what she said was, he sounds like the guy for you. But I want you to see how your dad reacts, so you know whether or not he really is, because your dad's an asshole. She knew. She knew what he was doing. She could see through his false facade and all of his crap. Because he was a generational curse. Was she an older sister? Yes. But she and he were still the metal children. Then Chris showed up, who was a little ass. Let's get out of that. I do the same thing again. What does he say when I tell him that I hope to marry Mikey someday, but that I don't give a fuck what he does as long as he treats me right? That's not what God told me. You better sit the fuck down. He was cooking at the time and had a knife in his hand. Points it at me. You better sit the fuck down before I do something with this. It was just me at his house, other than him. I was tempted to call 911, but I was too fucking scared. Next day I had my bag packed from visitation and walked home. He gave me crocodile tears, trying to repent and saying, "I'm so sorry." And it's like, which he always would do when I'd walk home. "Please come back." It's like, the man, with how much he could fake cry and everything, could probably be one of the best actors since Vincent Price. But at least Vincent Price had a heart. Yeah. You heard that right. As for my mom, she mainly raised me to be one of those people that was like, it doesn't care what religion you are, as long as you're a good person, God loves you. Meanwhile, Charlie's trying to teach me everybody who isn't a Catholic is going to hell, and all this other conflicting shit. Blah, 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 blah. But I really respected my mom for what she did. She tried to teach me outside of religion. Yes, I had VeggieTales. Yes, I had some of those other weird religious, like, Christian books, but none of them really said that, or at least VeggieTales didn't, and 321 Penguins, if I remember correctly, didn't have any purity culture shit or any of that weird crap that I know my mom, when I came home crying in 7th grade, saying, why is it I'm going to hell if I've already been baptized and being confirmed? She looks at me and says, "What are you meaning? You wanted me, but Dad didn't, and you didn't get married, and you didn't accept his," as I groaningly said, "saving for me of marriage." She said, "We would have been divorced anyway, and either way you wouldn't have grown up right, so I did what was right." And she said, "Well, according to school, I'm technically a sin baby, and I'm going to hell no matter what I do. So I might as well die." That's the first time I ever told my mom I wanted to commit suicide. I was 13, damn it. And you should never tell somebody they're that broken just because they were put on this earth. I'm sorry. But they still had the pro-birth medic also thrown in there. I don't call it pro-life, because if it was, they wouldn't have said that to me. Someone who was born out of wedlock with a single mother. They wouldn't have said that. No. I even told my priest what they said. He wanted to punch a wall. And he was part of the church that was a part of the school. And he said, "Nobody should have told you that. It's not true. Your mom wanted you. She even prayed to Mary and St. Anne. If that was true, then Jesus is a sin child, and that doesn't matter either. Or to these people." Which, if you look at it that way, yeah, that would be true too, because she and Joseph weren't married yet. When they had Jesus. Anyway. That was one of the first times I started trying to deconstruct. It didn't happen much until later on, when I had to deal with some of the indoctrination premarital counseling I had to go through with Mikey's pastor to get married, and the purity culture bullshit there. But yeah, no, I firmly am in the stance that no loving God would tell somebody that they're just going to hell just for existing. Especially after those same people who are telling you a loving God created you in their image. I'm not saying his, because I think God is a little bit of everything. So technically it's genderless or non-binary or not part of any of the crazy bullcrap that we assigned to that. But I digress. These same people also tell you that he loves you and made you in their image. If that's true, then why would he say also to these same people that because you exist out of wedlock, that you are sin and will go to hell either way? Yeah. You don't tell people that. That was under a different principle. My 8th grade year, when I was 14, the person who originally was going to teach us religion, and we had for half a year, Miss Plummer, was fired because I don't know if this is true, but what I remember correctly, according to my mother, was that the principal believed in the lies that she was an illegal alien, because she was hearing from the students as well as from some of the other parents. She was from Texas, and even though she was Mexican, she had Mexican heritage, I believe. I don't remember, but she was Hispanic. That didn't mean that she had to get fired over it. But then we ended up with the bimbo teacher, Miss What's-Her-Face, Miss Quaderno, who also was teaching us Spanish. And let's put it this way, she did not look like she was over 21. She looked like some of the moms in the school. Okay? I tried to be friendly with mostly the teachers because the kids were cruel and would make fun of me for their stupid shit. Did it have to do with the fact that I didn't subscribe to their ideas or wasn't so cruel? I don't know. I didn't fit in with the girls because I usually wore pants and had short hair. Hair at the time that I had just donated to Locks of Love, or I forget who I donated it to. I mainly wore pants in the winter when we were finally given permission to wear pants because I didn't like to freeze my ass. Ass in the cold when we'd have to walk to the bus or whatever. I also didn't have much boobs. And I didn't break the rules like some of them where we were supposed to never wear makeup. I got in trouble for wearing a tinted chapstick once. Meanwhile, I know most of these bitches were wearing mascara and concealer, at least. This was before the age of eyebrows. So I doubt they were doing their brows. But, at least we're wearing mascara and fucking concealer. Meanwhile, the boys didn't want to deal with me because, the boys that did deal with me knew I was a smart ass, and the boys that I was friends with were great, but the ones that I wasn't friends with, they mostly tried to make fun of me for looking like a guy, for I forget what else, but it was just one of those things of like, I only had like one real friend for many years. For at least, I think, 3 of those years. 4th grade was different. I had friends with most of the people there. And I was the new kid for a little bit. But By the time 5th grade rolled around, I finally had a friend. Maybe 2. Then 6th grade. Everybody's looking at me like I'm competition for the men. Or like a threat when I just have more guy friends. Bruh, the reason is I don't want to roll up my skirt and get in trouble for something that I could, when I'm already getting in trouble for stuff I didn't even do. For stuff I didn't even do. What I mean by that, I was put in detention for bringing a house, for, one time for something very stupid in 6th grade, for, a presentation I was going to give at school. I forget what it was, but it was something along the lines during the burning times of how I was saying that not all witches were evil. I was put in fucking detention for telling the truth. I even had biblical backing up shit, so they could not, and I repeat, so they could not tell me otherwise. But they did anyway. They put me in detention and told me that I need to get off my high horse, feminist high horse of the devil, and go to penance. So I did. First thing that my priest said was, the priest that was there, I think it was Monsignor Carl, who, I don't know what happened to him, but this guy was at Sacred Heart. Great little church. I just don't like the people there much. He looks at me and says, yeah, but Solomon also dealt with demons and shit. He didn't say demons and shit like that. He said, like, yeah, but Solomon also dealt with demons, so I don't think he's a good example. Plus, the Bible does have a translation about don't permit a witch to live. And then I explained to him, but wasn't that a mistranslation of faith? And he said, yeah, that's true, but unfortunately some of these people don't want to listen to that. And he immediately just says, here. He slides me a coupon for McDonald's and says, go get yourself some McDonald's with your mom and just don't talk about this crap again. Please. To which I didn't listen. 8th grade, when we were learning all about how bad witches are and how they all need to die or repent and come to Jesus in religion class. This was right before summer vacation anyway, so I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I literally said, if Solomon can learn about magic and do so with God's blessing, then why in the hell can't I? I was sent to the principal's office, who basically was Umbridge, only a Muggle Fundy. And she legit says to me, Hannah, we're sending you home because you are influencing evil onto this school. And I was like, what? It's really what I was thinking was, all I said was something that's damn true, and the teacher just threw me out of the classroom without answering my question. My mom comes and picks me up. Doesn't say a word to bitch principal. It says, I'm getting you ice cream. And I'm like, but aren't I supposed to be in trouble? You would if it was your dad picking you up, but thank God he works for the government and they don't have a holiday today, and you don't have visitation with him for this weekend, so we're getting ice cream. Yeah. I also forgot to mention it was a Friday. So I technically got a long weekend. All because I yelled at noon, almost right before lunchtime, against something stupid. But we did have a conversation about what is right and when to sit down and shut up and when to actually speak up. And she said, unfortunately, that was a time when you should have just sit down, shut up, and wrote a note to burn on fire later to bring home. But they check our notes in our book. And she said, not in that book, put in your math homework book, because Miss Caruso doesn't give a fuck. If you're listening, Miss Caruso, she was right. I would write notes in that book. You didn't ever have to check that, because I'd always put it in the back, rip it out, and burn it. To let it out. Let it all hang out. So thank you for being a safe teacher. But, to those of you who don't know, my mom's dead now. From COPD and lung cancer. She's been dead for a little bit longer than, I'd say almost 3 or 4 years. I might be wrong. I know that she died around 2019, it was in December of that year. Like early, mid-December. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because without her influence, I probably would have would have been killed by now. I think by church people, or at least silenced. So thank God for freedom of speech. Thank God for putting me in the timeline, even though the satanic panic was going on. I had a more or less could see through the stupid bullshit parent. Because Mikey, for a time, he wasn't allowed to play with Pokemon. He wasn't even allowed to listen to certain music. Lord, I feel bad for that boy's childhood somewhat. But then there are moments where I'm like, but you also didn't have a parent that went into bullshit. And this is where I go into my thank you, Big Mike, for existing post. It's the fact my mom didn't gender box me hardly at all. The fact that he did to Mikey, but Mikey wanted to. He wanted to be able to build things. He wanted to be able to help. He was one of those people. Or still is. Meanwhile, Bonnie, being lazy and an asshole, kept trying to indoctrinate him to be a pushover and a mama's boy, but also still be strong, manly man. Don't do this, because God says so. But at the same time, he'd be like, wait, so God tells me not to do this until I'm married, but I've been with the same girl that I want to marry since I was 14, does that matter? She got so mad when she found out that, and she said, how old were you when you stole that girl's gift for her future spouse, and if it wasn't you? He legit said, why does that matter? Because otherwise you're both going to hell. We were just recently engaged, and because of the pastor and her bullshit, we basically had a sex Lent. I call it that because it was a little over 40 days where we couldn't do jack shit. Okay? We were allowed to kiss, but Mikey tried to stay away from that because he didn't want to tempt himself. He was even worried about porn addiction at one point because of that, and I told him, Mikey, that was a lie came up by a serial killer. For more on that, look at the Focus on the Family video about Ted Bundy and his bullshit. Yeah, I just said their name. And you will know where that lie came from. Is the porn industry perfect? No. But honestly, I don't think it's a really bad that it's so blatantly an addictive thing to the point where you're going to kill people or any of the other lies they might be telling little boys and little girls. Excuse me. In the name of Jesus. But my mom hated that. She was dying at the time. And she said, "But you've only been with him, and he's only been with you. I mean, yeah, I did make you both have to give each other medical histories, but there's a reason behind that." And I said, "Is it because Dad gave you herpes?" "Yeah." But the whole purity culture shit that had to go through that was so bad. And then when we finally were allowed to learn about godly sex through the pastor, I swear he was trying to shame me for being on birth control when I told him, "Otherwise my periods are so bad I can't eat. I know we're not having sex right now and all that, but I don't think I want to have children right after my mother dies." And I could tell he was lying through his teeth, saying, "Oh, that God will forgive you for that," because I could tell he wasn't happy about what I said. So I told my mom, and she said, "I never liked him. He tried to save me when I was dying, and I didn't want him there when I was already saved and shit. And no, you don't do that." That's really what she said was, "You don't do that." She didn't elaborate, but I knew what she meant. What she was talking about was the first lines out of his mouth before meeting her and introducing himself was, "Have you accepted Jesus?" He didn't elaborate into anything else. He just starts preaching and preaching and preaching at a dying woman to the point where, what if she hadn't? What would he have done? I don't know. My mom didn't say it, but I kept thinking back, I think she would have said, "What if I was Reagan and puked up on his ass? I almost wanted to, because I could tell." And for those wondering who Reagan is, it's not a reference to Ronald Reagan. It is a reference to Reagan from The Exorcist. Okay. But she just went along with it because she wanted to get it over with. I could tell from her eyes, because she had blue hazel eyes that would turn white if she was like, "Get this over with, get this over with, get this over with." Like almost glazed over, like sky blue white. Like so much white in the blue, it's not even blue. Yeah. But I later on found out it wasn't just the pastor who wanted to do that. Big Mike objected, saying she's already saved, because he was a deacon at this church. So, I don't know what that means in the Baptist community or the Fundy community, but at least in the Catholic sphere, if you're a deacon, you're almost at the same level as a priest, but you're still not allowed to get married and all that. Anyway, usually that means that you're high up enough to say no and they listen to you. But no, because his wife was a bitch, he kind of forced him to go. I still, to this day, wish his dad married us, because he is ordained in the state of Maryland instead of the pastor, but here we are. Damn near 5 years in November of marriage, and I'm still unpacking bullshit that I had to go through before as an engaged girl, as an engaged 21-year-old, that still really makes me upset. Thankfully, he didn't make us read Love and Respect or any of that other garbage. But the premarital handbook he did make us go through, they had a chapter all on tithing and how you should only give to Christian charities and to the church, and make sure it's as much as you possibly can. That rubbed me the wrong way. For those of you wondering why I say that, in America, if you are international and watching this, this is a fact that you probably will get very mad at. Churches still do not have to pay taxes. That's right. Everybody else has to pay taxes, but if you're a piece of gold, you don't have to pay taxes. You know who else is considered a church and doesn't have to pay taxes? The Jehovah's Witnesses, and the fucking Scientologists, and the fucking Mormons. I just named 3 cults. Suspicious, isn't it? Suspicious. Oh, and Greg Locke. Fuck that man. He just grinds my gears. I want to kill him. Will I actually get through with that? No, because he's over there, far, far away from my ass. But if he wasn't, best believe I have some choice words for the man, as well as a jar or 2 ready to throw in his face. Anyway, there was a thing on tithing. Also, they also had a whole chapter also about how, like, the pro-life movement and everything. And beforehand, I called myself out as a non-pro-life person by saying, well, what about the health of the mother? Or if the baby's stillborn? That would really impact the mother's mental psyche. And he said, and he brings up this weird bullshit from the Southern 100 Club about how about a couple that were still grateful for the birth of their stillborn kid. I'm sorry, but I am not. If it is shown on an ultrasound and I am pregnant that my kid is stillborn, I am not keeping the baby. I'm sorry. I also said, what if they can't financially afford it? And he said, that's where God provides. Oh, so you mean like the crisis pregnancy centers and bullshit? I have to bring those up because the man immediately brought up them. I said, well, I basically also said, what if it's a rape baby? Yeah, I did bring that up. I was 21, I was old enough to know about that shit. And he said, it's a blessing from God regardless. A blessing from God regardless. Bruh. He also 95% of the time would talk about the evils of porn and a whole bunch of gross stuff to even that I just sat there like, it almost got to the point where even though I still wanted to marry Mikey, I was tempted to tell him, can we wait? Can we just not? I mean, I still wanted to marry him. I've always wanted to marry him since, well, let's say we were 16. But, whatever. I was tempted to break off the engagement and break up with someone that I truly loved just to get away from the Fundy indoctrination. And just so I could be, quote-unquote, free of the bullshit. Yeah. That says a lot. Maybe according to them it was because I was a sin child, but who the fuck cares? He also always would say, it also was heavily edited to be very conservative leaning to the point where I was like, boy am I glad I'm cis. I didn't know much about transgender back then. But what I did know was, boy, am I glad I'm not a woman and trying to marry another woman, or a man trying to marry another man, or intersex or any of that. That's literally what I was thinking to myself looking back when I read these books, because it literally kept saying marriage was that whole mumbo jumbo that they say in the damn, they say is God's word about being a man and a woman, and that because of Adam and Eve, that's why they have to get married, and it's like, but also that Adam and Eve were buried in the garden, and I'm like, well, there's no piece of paper God didn't make them wait so long to get married. He didn't make them do a whole bunch of shit. He just said, go have sex and don't eat from this tree. Have fun with the animals. Now go. That's all I did. Okay? Read it, and you will see what I'm saying is true. If you've never read it and you believe this lies and bullshit, again, get the fuck out. But, point is, if you're going to raise your kids in a box, at least raise them in a fun box. And I don't mean like from fucking Fairly Odd Parents. It looks like torture. Especially because Butch Hartman's an ass. But if you're going to raise them in a box that at least they can get out of if they want, and still love them. What do I mean by that? Set some boundaries with your kids about how to safely see where these stupid people are and how to be able to come to you about anything. I'm not a parent. I only got a dog and a cat. But seeing how so many of these people are pressuring me to have kids right now already, when I'm not ready yet, I doubt I'll ever be, but it's only been like 4 or 5 years since my mom's passed. I'm still grieving. And seeing the shit show of some of my other friends with how they're trying to blanket train their kids, I don't want to take their advice and try and have as many kids as possible. Yeah, there are some people that I Facebook stalk that I don't call friends, I put them in quotes, but trying to do the same thing. But, yeah. What do I also mean by a fun box? Give them the tools to know when the box is imploding on themselves in a way where they can't be themselves anymore. Make them feel safe. I'm sorry, but I didn't feel safe around my dad. I didn't feel safe even at school for 4 years almost. And I still didn't feel safe in high school, but it's another day. Thank God I didn't go to Riken or to any of the other Catholic or whatever denominational bullshit private schools, because most of the ones around here are drug havens and girls get put into trafficking. Well, at least from what I've heard. That might be wrong. I might be wrong now, but I doubt the drug stuff isn't untrue anymore. But actually, let's continue on that train. I went to McDonough, the closest high school to me. I would not be zoned for there anymore. I would be zoned for St. Charles. Fuck that school, from what I've heard. If you are a teacher teaching there, I feel so sorry for you, because that place was built like a private school, only it's a public school, so it makes no sense. What do I mean by that? Each grade has a different floor. It's weird. It's built more like a college campus. But to sum up, that's one of the reasons I'm going to homeschool my kids, because, frankly, I see so much problems in both versions of the school system that I'd rather unbiasedly homeschool my kids. Will I do public education stuff? Yes. Would I do it through a Fundy homeschooling program? No. Would I put them through a homeschooling program that isolates them for not being with a church? No. I will let them still have friends. I will still let them be with people their own age. I don't get why people have to be a part of a church in order to let their kids have friends. That's just me. I mean, yeah, I did have friends at church, But when I got older, most of them, at least now, I think they're jealous of me because I'm married and don't have kids, whereas most of them already have so many kids. It's already, and they're my age, because they got married at the same time, or maybe even younger. I don't know, that they are regretting the fact they got married in a Catholic church. So there's no way out. No way out without going to hell. But I recommend. But the other reason I'm going to homeschool my kids is also because they don't teach cursive in either school anymore. It's not required. So how are they going to sign their name without being easily forged? Point number 1. How are they going to be able to read their grandmother's handwriting? Point number 2. How are they going to be able to read the Declaration of Independence? For those of you who are still here that are of the right and are listening to a woman, which is weird. That's point number 3. But yeah, historic documents from their past loved ones, from their past bloodlines, and the forging their name. That's why I'm going to teach them how to print and write cursive. Now, hopefully Mikey will be able to do this, because my mom tried to do it with me, but I couldn't, which is how to be ambidextrous in your writing. That would have helped a lot when I broke my arm twice. Both times. Another story for another day. But here's the thing. I'm not going to shame them for being left-handed or ambidextrous. Just like I wouldn't shame them if they came out to me. Me when they're older saying, "Mommy, I think I like that girl." And it's another girl. I don't care. If you love them, you love them. Just don't treat them like an ass. I don't know if Mikey's the same way about that yet, because I think a lot of that Fundy indoctrination is still in him about gay people. And some trans people. I don't know why. When the same man legit has watched Mulan with me and knows that I'm okay with that. And he should be okay with that because drag queens saved China. At least according to Mulan. Alright. So, sum up. To sum up what I'm trying to say, you are worthy of being who you are, regardless of whatever someone is telling you. You are worthy to be you. You are worthy of love. There were many timelines out there. And you exist in this one. Yes, this one isn't the best. But you exist for a reason. What that reason is, it's damned to find out. But everyone exists for a reason. And yeah, that sounds really dumb. But your reason might be as simple as, oh, I don't know, giving a kid a hug when they're about to die of cancer. That's Batman. Maybe your reason is to have 1 million cats and own a bakery. I don't know. Maybe your reason is just to be. Just to be a beam of positive energy and light to people. Stay hydrated. Remember you are loved. Remember, don't fall for the bullshit. Peace out, interwebs, for now.